In a world shaped by politics, power, and constant misunderstandings between cultures, one man from the heart of Europe grew up with a perspective far wider than the walls of his palace. A young prince who observed the world with curiosity, respect, and a thirst for knowledge. And this young prince would one day become King Charles III, a man whose journey led him closer to the Islamic world than most people ever realized. From the earliest years of his life, Charles was fascinated not just by his own culture, but by civilizations far beyond Europe. While other young royals learned diplomacy through protocol, Charles learned it through philosophy, history, and world religions. He understood something very few Western leaders were willing to accept: that no culture, no nation, and no religion exists in isolation. Everything connects. Every civilization completes another. And within this search for understanding, his interest in Islam quietly grew, year after year, decade after decade. As he matured, his interest deepened. Islam was not a mystery to him. It was a subject of genuine study. He read about its history, its spiritual traditions, its contributions to art and science, and its power to shape entire civilizations. He once said that modern societies had mastered technology but forgotten the soul. And in Islam, he saw a balance, a harmony between the physical world and the spiritual world, a harmony humanity desperately needs. In one of his most famous speeches, he said that the Islamic world understood the relationship between human beings and nature long before the West did. He spoke of how the Quran repeatedly reminds humanity about balance, responsibility, and respect for nature, something modern societies have ignored. He believed that if the world adopted the environmental wisdom found in Islamic teachings, the global ecological crisis could be drastically reduced. He spoke openly of how Islamic civilization preserved knowledge during a time the rest of the world was drowning in darkness. He praised Muslim scholars, the scientists, mathematicians, philosophers, and physicians who shaped the modern world. He reminded the West that if it were not for Islamic scholars, Europe would have never reached the heights it boasts of today. But what made him unique was not his academic interest. It was his respect. A respect so rare in modern Western politics that Muslims across the world noticed it, admired it, and held it close to their hearts. He didn't just talk from a distance, he took action. He became the patron of the Oxford Center for Islamic Studies. He supported the study of Arabic, Quranic translations, Islamic law, and Islamic philosophy. He visited mosques, met scholars, and engaged with Muslim communities not as a politician seeking applause, but as a student seeking knowledge. Reports often mention that he read portions of the Quran, that he admired the structure, the discipline, and the spiritual clarity of Islamic teachings. He spoke with deep appreciation for Sufism, the inner spiritual path that focuses on purification of the heart. He once said that the inner journey taught in Sufism is something the modern world desperately needs. When he visited Muslim countries, leaders treated him with extraordinary affection. He was welcomed not simply as a king or a prince, but as a man who understood Islam beyond stereotypes, beyond politics, beyond fear. He often said that Islam is not the enemy. Misunderstanding is the enemy. And the Muslim world saw this honesty, and they valued it. Throughout the years, rumors spread. Some said he had secretly accepted Islam. Others claimed he had taken lessons in Arabic because he wanted to understand Quranic chapters accurately. None of these claims were ever confirmed, but they persisted for one reason: because his respect for Islam felt real, deep, and sincere. Something very rare among Western leaders. When Islamophobia increased in the West, he stood as one of the few voices defending Muslims. He said it was wrong, dangerous, and unfair to judge an entire religion by the actions of a few individuals. He said that fear grows when people stop listening, and the world stops listening when it replaces truth with propaganda. He told Western audiences that Muslims are an essential part of their societies, that their culture, their ethics, and their spiritual strength contribute to the collective good of nations. He reminded people that Islam teaches compassion, justice, humility, and discipline, values that all humanity shares. He spoke about hearing the call to prayer, Mati Adhan, during his visits to Muslim countries. He said it carried a kind of spiritual magnetism, a reminder of the human connection to the divine. He admired how Muslim families stayed connected, how children respected elders, how community ties remained strong in Muslim societies. He said the West had much to learn in this area. He explained that when religion becomes mixed with political rivalry, its spiritual beauty gets lost, and he believed that the world could only find peace if religions were bridges of understanding instead of weapons of division. He often repeated that Islam teaches inner peace, a calmness of the soul that today's world is starving for. He admired how Muslims, in moments of difficulty, turned toward prayer, finding strength in surrender and comfort in faith. He appreciated how Islamic architecture, calligraphy, and poetry carry both knowledge and spirituality. And he said that Islam's greatest strength lies not only in its history, but in its moral structure, its teachings about justice, truthfulness, family, character, and responsibility. Muslims around the world respected him for this, not because he claimed to be one of them, but because he treated them with dignity. He studied their religion, understood their culture, and defended them when the world turned hostile. He recognized the depth, the beauty, and the wisdom of Islamic teachings. And while he never announced conversion, he lived with an openness toward Islam that touched millions. People often say that King Charles may not be a Muslim, but he is certainly a man who understands Islam better than many who speak of it loudly. He built bridges instead of walls. He encouraged dialogue instead of division. He believed that the future of the world depends on coexistence, respect, and shared understanding. And that is why, even today, Muslims across the world look at him not as a distant Western ruler, but as a leader who saw Islam's true beauty, who respected its people, and who attempted, in his own way, to bring hearts closer in a world that keeps trying to push them apart.